What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Davita Chanel, and I'm supposed to already be at the gym. But what had happened was I was looking at this Twitter and I saw something that made me want to talk about it. So here I go, we talking about it. And let's be clear, this thing I'm about to talk about, I don't even know that much about it. His name is Joe Flacco, and I know about him because I married this like lifelong Ravens fan. So now I know a whole bunch of random information about the Ravens, and I watched a lot of Ravens stuff. Okay, so picture it. It was 2018, and Joe Flacco was the quarterback of the Ravens. He had been in the league for a long time. He had won a Super Bowl, and he was like leading the Ravens at the time. But the Ravens had just drafted Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson had won the Heisman Trophy, and there was all this talk about him because the critics were saying he ain't no quarterback, he a running back because he could rush and throw the ball. Okay, follow me, don't give up on me yet. This is gonna make sense. So at the time in 2018, Joe Flacco is the head quarterback. Lamar Jackson is on the team and in position to become the next. Sort of how like when Brett Favre was the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers was right there. Like this thing happens all the time, and that's what was happening with the Ravens. Except Joe Flacco get hurt. He hurt his hip and he's out, and Lamar Jackson is coming in. Now, from the sidelines, as a non Ravens fan and as I don't really know that much about football, but I be having opinions type of girl, I was like, that's fucked up. Joe Flacco's supposed to be their guy, and they just tossed him aside and they putting it all in on Lamar Jackson. But my husband, who is about that life, he was like, girl, no, this is good. Lamar Jackson is the future, and that's just how it go. I feel bad for Joe, but I don't know, dog. That's just how it go. So I felt a way. I felt a way about how the Ravens had done Joe Flacco, and I felt a way that Joe Flacco's, leg had let him down at this point in his career. This man should have been about to retire and maybe headed to the Hall of Fame. But that wasn't in the cards. He was done. He was out for the season, and Lamar Jackson was the man, and now Lamar Jackson's reign begins, and we ain't gonna hear no more about Joe Flacco. Except we do hear some more about Joe Flacco. So after that, he go home. I guess he get himself together. His leg get back right. And he get a new job. He get a job for the Jets. Now, again, I don't know that much about football, but I know getting a job for the Jets ain't about to be, some swan song. So Joe Flacco go play for the Jets. But the Jets still the Jets, so, nothing really happens except that Joe Flacco plays great. And, they are at least in the conversation. They win some games. I don't remember, but, Joe Flacco is not done. He's doing well. Well enough that when the Cleveland Browns get Deshaun Watson, but now Deshaun Watson is hurt, they call up Joe Flacco, and Joe Flacco go in. And baby, Joe Flacco went in. Last year, he was actually the NFL Comeback Player of the Year because he played so freaking good. He played so good that I was nervous that the Ravens were going to have to face the Browns in the playoffs deep because Joe Flacco he was balling. Now, this was the same dude who had lost his job to the young, hot Lamar Jackson and had been just discarded by the Ravens, in my opinion. But even though he did so good with the Browns, he still ain't have a job come the beginning of the new season, and now he play for the Colts. And that brings me to the point of my story. So right now he playing for the Colts, and things are going well because sadly the Colts quarterback, I guess, is hurt. So now Joe Flacco, who is the backup, is in the game, and he playing good again, y'all. He's still balling. He's still doing all this stuff. And yesterday they had this press conference, and that's what I just saw on Twitter. And the guy at the press conference asked him something about like, how do you feel about the quarterback who's out? And Joe Flacco was like, say, dog, I know exactly how you feel. This what had happened with me and the Ravens, and it was my team. I was supposed to lead them. This was gonna be like what was for me, and then all of a sudden, I was out and I had to watch Lamar take over, and it was just hard for me mentally to face that. And y'all, that's when the lights started going off in my head and the energy started buzzing and the word had been delivered. I felt like I got a download. I feel like, well, this is what the word had said to me. I feel like the Lord just used Joe Flacco to remind me of a word. And that word is keep on going. Because to me, it seems like Joe Flacco had been told, like, say, dog, you him. You going to be the man. Football is your life. You going to become a Hall of Fame player. You going to play for a good-ass team. You going to be that dude. And things were looking that way. He had already won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. He was leading the Ravens to what seemed to be another year of victory. He was going to, like, have this great legacy. And then one day, all that shit was gone. He was no longer the man. And not only was it gone, he was replaced by Lamar Jackson, who is like an anomaly in athleticism, like the things that he can do. Once you start talking about Lamar Jackson, ain't nobody talking about Joe Flacco. So it seemed like his story was over. But the Lord was like, say, dog, I ain't say your shit was over. I say you still got stuff to do. I just said it wasn't going to happen the way you thought it was going to happen. The world would have thought that Joe Flacco was going to be a Ravens quarterback for life. And that's where his glory was going to come from. But that ain't what the Lord said. So as I was watching that, all I could do was think about my own life and all these times where it seemed like I was so close to the victory and I just put all my hopes in one basket of how it was going to happen. And guess what? It ain't happened that way. It would be a whole nother way. Like one time I had this job that I just knew was the job for me. And one day that shit all closed down. Only for me to be able to open my own business. Now, I ain't have no Joe Flacco levels of success yet, but perhaps they coming. And I think the bigger point of the story is I just can't get caught up about what I think is mine. Joe Flacco even said it in the press conference. Like, the Ravens, that was my team. And then it was just gone. That wasn't your team. That was the Ravens team. That was your position. That's what you played. But that wasn't your team. The Lord had a whole nother team for you. The plan is, the Lord said you is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. You are going to be the man. He didn't say how. He didn't say when. And look at the way this story is unfolding. We have so much more to learn about what's going to happen with Joe Flacco. So again, as someone who don't know nothing about like the stats or where he going or the projections, and I ain't got no fantasy football, I do know that sometimes things work out in ways we could never imagine. And look how this story is working out for Joe Flacco. And if the Lord could work it out for Joe Flacco, a old ass quarterback with a bad hip, what he gonna do for you? And what he gonna do for me. So I am thanking him in advance. I am super hyped. I am ready for the week. I am ready for this fourth quarter. It is time for a comeback. If Joe Flacco could come back, shit, I'm coming back. And this is definitely not to shit on Joe Flacco. It's just to make the point that in the NFL, once you reach a certain age, once you've been replaced from your like flagship team, anything can happen. Oh, and one other fun fact I know about Joe Flacco, I know that when Joe Flacco was drafted, people drafted Matt Ryan before him. So don't let what these people say get in your way, because we all know how that story ended. Have a great week, y'all. Happy Monday.